Hey guys, what's going on? So today, as you've no doubt noticed, it's a little late at night because I've been playing this game all goddamn day. So we're gonna have to do a bit of an ASMR intro because people are sleeping and I can't make too much noise. But today, I wanted to show you guys this deck that I climbed with earlier, and it is effectively a Shurima Noxus version of Aggro that I built and I currently have up on the site, and it is based off of an aggro concept that 4LW has been having success with, and we're going to talk about what makes some of these cards good. Basically, this is a very straightforward aggro concept. We are going to be jamming in a bunch of 1-drops. You might ask what makes this version of aggro unique, and it is effectively using Swarm as well as just a maximum density of high power 1-cost units. Shurima and Noxus are the two regions that have the most ridiculous 1-power units by quite a large margin, and you're gonna mulligan for these 1-power units and just fist your opponent's asshole on turn 2. Anyway, I'll be talking about some of the specifics of the deck build in the video because the games that we played today, I ended up talking quite a bit about, deck building decisions, why we're running stuff like Sharpened Resolve, which probably seems like a pretty wacky card to run here, as well as Arena Battlecaster, why we're not running Darius, so on and so forth. So I won't mention those now, they'll be, a little bit later I'll talk about them, but if you're looking for a couple of tips, just make sure you are mulliganing aggressively for 1 and 2 mana cards. Do not keep Azir or Merciless Hunter in your opening hand, with maybe some very rare exceptions for Hunter. And you shouldn't usually feel compelled to play Azir on turn 3 or anything either. Just try to make sure you're maximizing your damage potential with each play. On turn 1, you'll often be looking at a couple of different 1-drop choices, and you'll have to play the one that makes the most sense into the blocker you expect the opponent to play on turn 1, if any. Make sure you always attack with Bakai Reaper on the right side so that it's gonna grow, and this card will become really terrifying and will freely win you a lot of games on its own. He's a pretty ridiculous card, honestly. And for the most part, that's pretty much it. This is a full frontal aggro style deck. And so you really just need to be asking yourself, if I was the opponent, what kind of plays would make me cry? Like, you could on turn 2 play a House Spider, or you could play a Saboteur and a Precious Pet. So just think what's going to be pushing the most damage. I think a lot of mistakes I see new players when they pick up decks like this is just going for kind of like curve plays. Like, yeah, people will play Azir on turn 3 and stuff like that. And you should just be thinking about what's going to be maximizing damage on every street, right? So yeah, basically just try to shove as much shit down the opponent's throat as humanly possible, and the deck will work perfectly fine for you. So that's it. I have woken up my dog, and I hope you guys enjoy the games.
If you build Malphite around just like, as long as you have enough of the healing, you don't even need that much. Just like, as long as you don't go all in and you add a couple bits of the Targon healing, you're still going to get most of the positive matchups that Targon is able to generate. Darius Ashe. This is quite interesting. There's an argument to keep one of these twos. I don't know how aggressively you can take this mulligan. I think keeping the Grenadier is probably safe. If the game goes on a little longer, I could see keeping the Battlecaster or doing a full mull.
Explosives primed.
No Dais? Yeah, this is an aggro deck. We definitely wouldn't want Dais here. Like Darius is more of like, it slows down your deck and it works for very specific combo pieces.
A chill in the air.
Wham, my attack.
Let's have some fun. Look what I found.
Interesting. Well, I mean, if he's attacking with Marauder, he's
Try me.
on Brittle or Elixir. Yeah, that's pretty annoying. He's running Darius with that? That's so weird. Yeah, it's not the weirdest thing ever. It's kind of cute. So yeah, Hunter's pretty sweet. I think I just give vulnerable to probably just the Archer, right? I don't know. It kind of like, we're not really gaining too much value out of either here. You forgot to check. Oh yeah, I did forget to check the Shurima Noxus deck between games.
Still see far and clear.
I don't know why I always have such a problem forgetting things between games. I think I can just do this. So I'm super, super vulnerable to a troll chant here. This is kind of like the best troll chant he could imagine. Because he's able to just like keep two things alive. I could try to drag with like the Grenadier instead, but I don't think that's necessarily better.
Look out for reavers.
Wow, no tricks. Well, that's really good for me.
Alert the village.
Well, homie's at 8. That's pretty much what we want to see. He could like open attack with a God. He could be open attacking with like a Reckoning or something trolly. Yeah, I'm okay taking that damage. He's got Darius, which I'm like a little concerned with because I mean, you know, Darius could be like, he could be like double decimating me or something. I don't really know exactly how this deck is running, but I don't mind going below like Darius' level up. Yeah, there's the Reckoning, so the Rune Runner is a way to develop without giving the Reckoning value. And now I should be pretty safe to develop into my next turn. If he has a second Reckoning, he might actually win, but I can't really play around a second one. God, there's no way I could just play a second Rune Runner, is there?
See what we see, soldier.
God, he actually passes on my first action. Oh my god. Does he actually have a second Reckoning? The fact that he just passed there means I guess I am playing Rune Runner. If I don't kill him this turn, I pretty much die, because, like, I should assume Darius is just dropping and killing me. What would he pass on there apart from literally, like, Reckoning or Harsh Winds? I don't think he could have anything else. I mean, the scary thing is he could have Reckoning and also another option that punishes this as well, right? Like, you know, a double develop. For example, if he has a hand of, like, Reckoning and the Legion Marauder summoning spell, that's pretty nasty. That would allow him to survive here, because now that he doesn't need the Reckoning mana up, he could just use the spell. But otherwise, this is probably the safest play. Yeah, strength the numbers.
Going someplace.
So yeah, it's probably just like Troll Chant plus a freeze.
Scared of a fair fight?
Man. Yeah, now we just lose to Darius, I think. I mean, we'll see. What is he tanking on there? He's thinking about Culling Striking to save damage to play around Decimate range, probably. Yeah, he was deciding whether to Culling Strike my threat for next turn or Culling Strike my Dune Keeper to try to stop 2 damage to face. Now, he can Darius. And I mean, we can stay alive through the Darius. You know, our Azir has 6. I can also Grenadier and threaten to kill the Darius. Grenadier would end up being a 6/4. So I'd go down to 2 health, and I would have exactly enough mana to open attack with Azir, so I'd be good. 2 health is a safety range against that deck.
Just by my hand. Sure about that?
There's nothing he can really like. Okay, unless he's running literally Sigil of Malice. But with this open attack, we should always be good.
Tell the people what you have seen.
All 3 of our units are doing 2 damage, so even if he has like double Brittle Steel, it won't be enough. And we have to be good here. Sharpen Resolve MVP. Yeah, I mean, I really like Sharpen Resolve. If he's literally running Decimate, I mean, I have to open it then. Alright, we're good. Nice. But yeah, that's a really, really weird sequence. The most important play I made that game was using the Dune Keeper on turn 6. I had to decide whether I was going to triple swarm or play Rune Runner, and Dune Keeper as first action is a way of informing my next play, because Dune Keeper can curve with Rune Runner or the triple swarm on turn 6. And the moment he passed when we played the Dune Keeper, it's way too terrifying that he passes there. I can't go in wide. And Rune Runner doesn't get hurt by too much there, so that ended up being fine. And yeah, Sharpen Resolve is really sick in this deck. I think it's a super, super low-key card in general. Sharpen Resolve is another one of those good examples of people really comparing the wrong kinds of things, like comparing across regions, basically. Oh, it's BBG. He's playing, I think I just go wide early. Not 100% sure what to expect from Reputation. Probably should be running Thrashing Snapper right now.
Get past me.
Snapper's pretty cute, especially when you combine it with Vulnerable from like Merciless Hunter or something.
Just need a second.
Voices carry.
See what we see, soldier. I'll do better this time.
Well,
Alright. He's stopping just like maximum damage here. So if he has like exhaust and I play Azir, he can like exhaust the Azir and kill him for free. Like that's pretty spooky, right? So I could pass here, and I actually have a hand where I don't even mind banking 3 mana because of my Sharpened Resolve. So I'm perfectly happy with that pass. If I didn't have Sharpened Resolve, that pass would feel a lot worse. But it's a forced pass, I think.
don't worry. I won't say a word.
You need not follow
Like
what
Thrashing
you
Snapper
will.
can be a kind of spooky card in that deck. All right, do this BBG slow roll. There we go. Yep, always run Sharpen Resolve, guys. Remember, always run Sharpen Resolve. I forgot to mention, that's another reason that it's in the deck, because Culling Strike is also a very common card right now. Sharpen Resolve is literally cracked. Like, people are running Culling Strike to be able to deal with Azir, not from this deck, but from, like, Aurelia decks. And, yeah, Sharpen Resolve is absolutely amazing in this meta. Premium card. I promise.
Victory requires
Wah. Glory Seeker. That's not fair. How am I gonna deal this last damage?
face me.
What? Like, hang on. What do Reputation decks run again? Hang on a second. What do Reputation decks run? I'm probably getting like, I probably can't afford to just send this face. That feels bad. I just have to like get in my chip damage. Yeah, I can't just like cast this spell and hope it works out. It's really, really bad. He's at 10 and I have some burn in my hand. I just have to try to maximize my damage. If I send that into the unit and he has like a pretty easy counter, then I get completely screwed. So I could Decimate now for mana efficiency. If he has Rite of Negation, he'll basically have to use it now. The only question is like, will I ever be able to get him to tap under Rite of Negation? And in that deck, the answer is kind of no, if he's like smart. So I will just try for a Decimate now. Like, I want to be able to kill him before he can draw into a Rite of Negation. And I want to save my, let my mana be the point where like a Fervor can kill him if I get it in. Fervor first? No, I want to... So the thing is, they both get countered by Rite of Negation, but Fervor is more important to use reactively. Like, Fervor is the one that's more counterable by all the other cards in his deck. Those being stuff like, for example, Bloody Business. So now he's down to 5 mana, and between double Fervor, he shouldn't have a double trick to be able to stop this. I don't think there's a way in that deck to be able to stop this now.
That's right. Run.
Danger pays.
Like, we're safe. Alright. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll do this just because it's funny if his card is Whirling Death. It's an assert dominance play, guys. I make it's a slow roll. It's a slow roll. It's like I make it seem like, oh whoops, I messed up, and then it's just like, you know, you give them false hope. There's no point of playing aggro, guys, if you're not gonna give them false hope. Okay? Should have used it on the backliner. What are you playing around by using it on the backliner, guys? He had 5 mana there. Like, I love aggro. It's just like the ultimate archetype. This is my version of Shurima Noxus Aggro. It's actually 1 card different on the site right now, which is that I am using 1 Imperial Demolitionist over the 2nd Ballista on the site. And to be honest, I don't know how I feel it. So, my hot take is I think Imperial Demolitionist is straight up a bad card. Like, I hate this card. I hate every single thing about it. I think this card is terrible. But, I mean, it's a hot take, and obviously I'm exaggerating. And so it's a little bit hard to cut. My problem with Imperial Demolitionist is that she's not really good on turn 2. I mean, in this deck she's okay because Bakai Reaper and Rearguard both have 2 health, so it's like, you know, sometimes she can unbrick a turn 2 hand, but she's like so much worse than Battlecaster early. And in the late game, she's so much worse than like a Decimate or a Fervor or whatever you'd want. So she's kind of in between, right? Like she's trying to do the same thing that like Decimate and Fervor are trying to do. You're paying for flexibility because you can use her a little bit early as a unit or you can use her a little bit late as burn, but she's kind of really bad at both, and in a way that I personally just kind of hate in the card. Now, here's my hypothesis. I think people are kind of like locked into Imperial Demolitionist out of habit, specifically that there's reasons that she's in the deck that she's in. Like in Pirate Burn, she's kind of necessary because she allows you to deal damage on the Gangplank turn, which can sometimes help level your Gangplank, and that's a nice difference, right? Like being able to do a Gangplank trigger in Pirate Burn actually matters because the Gangplank level up is an auto win when it happens. It doesn't happen very often, but you know, in every like 1 in 10 games or whatever, it'll just win you a game for free, which is really cool. So she has some synergy here, and even like Spider Aggro, I don't know if I love her in Spider Aggro, but I'm okay running some amount because she hits Stalking Shadows in this deck. In this deck, she is what gives Stalking Shadows an additional target. If you don't hit Doom Beast, then it turns your Stalking Shadows into a Decimate, and I think that's an important function. But she's in these 2 decks for 2 different reasons that are specific to these decks, and honestly, I don't think she's good in general. So I see people running 3 Demolitionist in Shurima Noxus Aggro, and in my opinion, I think that's just kind of bad and pointless. Like, I think she's only good in those decks for specific reasons. So I probably want to cut the last one here too. I wanted to hedge a little bit, which is why I was basically I'm too much of a bitch to go with my gut, so I didn't cut the last one from the site yet. But I'm fucking about to. That card fucking blows. It sucks, and your reasoning is correct. Yeah, I'm just gonna fucking cut it. I don't even know if I want a 2nd Ballista. It could literally be, by the way, very, very, very possible that it's just 3 Battlecasters. I'm in love with Battlecaster in this deck. It's pretty sick. So it's either 3rd Battlecaster or the other Ballista. I think 3rd Battlecaster might get ahead a little bit. Why is this not 3rd Battlecaster yet? I agree, dude. Battlecaster's cracked. So yeah, this is my take on Shurima Noxus Aggro. Battlecaster's cracked, and Sharpen Resolve is cracked, and people should play these cards. Thanks for coming on my TED Talk. Here's another aspect of deck building. Deck building tips number 17. It's important to build around what kinds of value you're giving to the specific kinds of opponent's tools, right? And to be able to take certain deck archetypes as a means of devaluing those tools, right? Like, when you think about it like that, that's entirely what an archetype is. The whole point of an archetype is to create a subcategory of cards that you expect the opponent to have and to brick those cards. That's what aggro is doing. It's saying, I'm going to end the game so fast that you're not going to be able to use the slow kinds of cards, right? That's what, like, you know, if you're grinding against Targon, Targon's trying to devalue aggressive cards, and grinding cards are trying to devalue, you know, stuff like heals, like Targon cards. And that's why grindy decks tend to beat Targon decks, for example, right? And the thing about Darius in this deck is that it fundamentally, in my opinion, creates a complete mismatch between what aggro as an archetype is inherently trying to do. Darius I don't think Darius is an aggro card basically at all. He's a bit more of an aggro card than Renekton, but I would say ultimately Darius has kind of the same problem as Renekton, which is that it is kind of inherently more of a, not a mid-range-ish card, but you can say like a slower card, like Overwhelm style decks can run him, you know, depending on how you want to like dissect things. It works in some slower forms of decks, right? Yeah, like mid-range or like the super slow decks. But the reason why I don't really like Darius in this deck is because, again, the point of aggro is to devalue certain kinds of cards from the opponent. And when you look at this deck, you know, we're running some amount of swarm, so we're going to be giving the board sweepers some value, right? Like think about it in terms of kind of like sustained, like, okay, imagine a hand state where you're playing against Trundle Lysandra, right? And they have, you know, 2 board sweeps, like an Ice Shard and an Avalanche, and they've got like a Flash Freeze and a Vengeance, right? That's their hand. And that's their hand the entire game, right? Because a hand is like the full draw. Like, in that kind of hand state, because deck building is always about imagining hand states, if you play a bunch of swarm units and then you get their Avalanche out, then you are incentivized to play more swarm units, right? Because once their Avalanche is out, your swarm units have a higher likelihood of sticking to the board and reclaiming the game, right? But kind of the worst thing you can do is transition your swarm into playing into a different kind of counter, because then you're just giving them value to the other card in their hand, right? Because they're like the average hand is going to have more of a balance of cards than stacking the same kind of card, right? So the problem with Darius in a nutshell is that part of the idea of this deck is we're trying to take cards like Flash Freeze, cards like Vengeance, cards like, I don't know, Three Sisters for, yeah, I'm in Flash Freeze or Entomb or whatever. We're trying to take cards like even Hush, even cards like Hush. And we're trying to say, my deck is built around not letting those cards get value. Look at this. This deck is built around not letting those cards get value. And then by simply adding in Darius, you're kind of defeating the entire goddamn purpose of this entire goddamn deck. Now, we're going to see this pattern happen a lot. And I promise you, in every single patch, someone in like a day 1 meta is going to climb really fast with a Darius deck. And that's what 4LW did. And we've seen this literally, I think like one of the first decks to hit Masters was running Darius like a year ago. We're going to see this every single patch cycle. And that's because when people are running these like experimental strategies or like heavy aggro mirrors in those very, very specifically designed submetas where you're not going to see a lot of stuff like Flash Freeze or a lot of stuff like Vengeance, then Darius is fine in those like tiny windows. So yes, people are going to be hitting Masters, and like in the first 2 days of every expansion, Darius is fine. But in general, Darius is not really an aggro card. And he's, you know, he's not even an amazing, like kind of like slower, like mid-range card either, but that's kind of more of his home, if anything. All right. But that's why I'm not running Darius in this deck either.